It's now time for a very important conversation. Usually it stokes a lot of emotions, right? Because, it's usually coupled with frustrations and a lot of the time, unmet expectations, right? And we'll be looking at issues around rent control. All you need to know about the scope and the mandate of the rent control department here in Ghana and what you can do as an aggrieved person or as an aggrieved tenant. And of course, for landlords, they also have challenges. Sometimes we focus a lot on the tenants that we ignore some of the challenges and constraints landlords face. So we'll be looking at all of that and more. And it's a privilege to have joining me in studio this morning, Mr. Emmanuel Posu, who is the head of PR at the rent control department.
Right.
I hope I got the designation correct.
That's right.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
Except that for a lot of people who are watching right now, it's difficult for them, But before I even delve into some of the questions I have for you, if you are watching the show right now, you have any question, any comment, any contribution or experience even, please do so by share with us via the number on your screen right now. I'll be glad to read all of it across for you. Right, so Mr. Posu, again, thank you so much for joining us. For those who don't even know, right, the uninitiated, right, can you just give us a brief scope of what your mandate is as a rent control department?
Okay, so thanks so much once more for the invite. And before I commence, let me just appreciate your cherished viewers for all of you the opportunity given me. But again, before that, when I saw the topic for the day, something clicked me. If somebody asked me, what are you going to do? So I tried to acronym the state of the rent control in the country or in Ghana.
Yeah.
So I came out with something like SORCA, SORCA. State of Rent Control Affairs.
State of Rent Control Affairs.
Exactly. So maybe I'll channel to my superior if we can have this every year so that we can sensitize the
system.
Yes, thank you for that. So when it comes to the functions, as you rightly asked, we are based on law. All activities are based on law. The law, currently what we are focusing on or what we are using is the Rent Act 1963, Act 220, which comes with its regulations. So that regulations gives us what we must follow, the process we must follow. But when you look at Section 5 of the Act, that is the Act 220, it has spelled out our functions, the duties of the department vis-a-vis the rent officer or rent manager. First on the list is an assessment of a recoverable rent. What that means is that if you are in somebody's property and all of a sudden the person raises the rent, increases the rent to
outrageously
unacceptable or
unrealistic,
you, the tenant, has right to visit our office and do what you apply for an assessment. Likewise, the landlord, probably you are somebody is dwelling your property. You don't know how much you should increase the property, the rent. You also have right to apply for that assessment. What goes into the assessment is that the officer who has the applications has come before will move into the property. Will look at the value of the land as at the time you made the application. Look at the state of the property. Look at the amenities available, whatever you use in building, and then the quality of those things. All this will determine how much the person should pay for a period of 2 years. Because you can't determine a rent and then you just leave it forever. Definitely there will be depreciation, there will be
other costs,
and even the building may be deteriorating.
But it should be realistic.
Should be realistic.
Interesting.
Yes.
Let's come to over the years, right?
Yeah.
Or let's say even in the last year, how many of such cases have you been able to, deal on effectively? Okay.
So I will share your question. I'll have to add one or two other functions that we play.
Okay.
The other function is that, when two people meet, definitely there may be some dispute. So when that comes, you, the landlord, has no right to take the law into your own hands. There are laid down offenses in our act. There are laid down processes if you want to recover your possession of your property. That is, you want to take back your property. When such things happen, you can't take the law into your own hands. You need to visit our office or go before the magistrate, which is the court, the district court. You lay down the offenses that you think the person has then we'll do an investigation, and then we'll forward those investigations to the magistrate, so that if there are any punishment, it will be done. So what I'm saying, we do investigation if a complaint is lodged before us. We also have the right to process anybody who has absconded in somebody's property. That abscondment is that somebody is in your property, the person tenancy has ended. You can't find the person. You, the landlord, cannot break into the property and say, no, let me pack it to somewhere and then take. If you do that and the person comes and they say, no, a bottle of water I placed on my cabinet is missing, and this is its value, you have to pay. So these are some of, there are a lot, but your question about how many, just last year we had over 200 and, yes, a little over 200 cases spread across all what I've mentioned. Application for assessment, inducement by landlord. That means that you are in a property, landlord feels that no, the rent, that's the notion, the rent you are paying is too low. You've come here for so long. Let me induce you, let me force you out, do things that if you don't like, you move out. Then when you move, I'll get somebody else to come in where I'll get higher rent. Or sometimes even your tenancy has not ended. Things that the money you've paid is too low, you start inducing you, causing you, doing things that will push you out. That has inducement is an offense. So those are the cases. And again, the law states that no tenant has right to owe any landlord a month's rent, more than a month's rent.
But is it, are we effectively, adjudicating on these issues? And my question really was on the success rate.
Okay.
So you said that over 200 cases have come to you.
Okay.
And even that 200, I want to believe there are a lot more, issues out there, but maybe people don't know about the mandate and the function, so they've probably not brought it out. That's fair enough. 200 cases, how many of them have you been able to successfully adjudicate?
I'm always proud to announce this, that for the period, every year we get a quantum of cases that comes, and averagely we've been successful settle cases beyond 85%.
85% success rate, and this is verifiable. It's verifiable. So if I come to your office, you'll be able to give me a breakdown.
A breakdown of cases that we've been able to settle, cases that are still pending, cases that have been referred to the magistrate, cases that have been withdrawn by a complainant or somebody, or cases that we've been struck out. We strike those cases out because if you lodge a complaint and for a period of time you don't come, parties don't come, we can't leave them in our books. We need to strike them up. So we have the various percentage of the cases that we've been able to handle in our offices.
Does your mandate involve price regulation?
Okay, so the regulation comes into the assessment. Okay, that's when there's a dispute between a landlord and tenant as to how much the tenant is supposed to pay.
So this is not even for somebody who's already moved in, and now there's like some negotiation on an upward review. This is for freshly built spaces, or even like existing facilities already. If somebody says he wants to charge, let's say $1,000, right, in Tesano or North Kaneshi, do you, as a regulator, because listening to you explain the mandate, in part, you are also a regulator of the space, right? So do you also have a say in how much landlords can charge for a particular, facility, residential facility?
Okay, in the first place, it's an offense to charge in any foreign currency in the country. That is a mandate of the
$1,000, was an example. But
an equivalent. So you to safeguard your thought, make it equivalent, so that it wouldn't be that somebody you can just wake up and charge in foreign currency.
But there are landlords doing that anyway. We'll come to all of that.
It's an offense. We'll come to that. But the issue is that You know, it's a free market. Let's be frank with it. We only come in when there's a dispute.
Okay.
When there's a dispute. A tenant, you know, all our figures are not equal. What may be expensive for you may be cheaper for somebody. In the sense that if I live in Kumasi and I take transport every day to Accra, and I get a property in Accra, which will be a little bit higher when I compare my transportation
from
and
Accra
that
to Kumasi.
It will be cheaper for you compared to somebody who is in Accra and then thinks that no, it is high. So only when there's a dispute
is when you
will come in.
But as the name suggests, you know, rent control. You know, should you not also be looking for cheaper, you know, options for potential tenants, right? Than just say, okay, we'll only come in when there's a contract. You know, people feel like rent is too expensive, and some of the quotes these landlords give on some of their facility do not correspond the prices we see.
Okay.
So, for example, we need cheaper rent, and that should be a mandate of rent control. Okay. You agree?
Yeah, I agree perfectly with you. But the issue we are currently facing is the archaicness of our law. Since 1963, we started reviewing the law since 2010. It couldn't be passed. Just last administration, we reached the third reading, but unfortunately we couldn't. What we suggested in that bill is that now we are going to form what we call an independent assessment committee. That independent assessment committee, if it's in the district, will have a rep of a landlord association, a rep of a tenant association, any expert, being a lawyer, valuer, surveyor, all those people will be part of the committee. Rent control or the government will sit back and look at those people so that when a rent is given, it wouldn't be that government is imposing rent on a landlord or a tenant. So that you are having a rep there, when all of you decide that no, this should be the realistic rent for this suburb or this district, no tenant will come out that no, the landlords in this district or this vicinity are charging so much. So that's where we are. We've realized that tenants feel they are being overpriced. Landlord feels the materials they use in building are going high. So if the buildings are going high, the value of the land is going high, you can't expect me to reduce my rent, which means the period I have to use to recoup my money will be overseeded. So that's where we want to set up the independent assessment committee.
So the committee is to look at issues around
the pricing
before the rent and subsequently. And how soon will this committee be formed?
Unless the bill is passed. Even we've started reviewing. If stakeholders think this assessment committee will be very good in inserting in the bill, then fine, it will go. But just as I said, since we were not able to pass it last time, we have to start all over again. We'll propose the points that we put to the
framework.
Yes, the framework to the stakeholders. We'll very soon have a stakeholders engagement to look.
When are you having the stakeholder engagement? You know, we need actionable timelines so that we are able to, you know, follow up and say, you said we were going to meet these stakeholders on this day and it didn't happen. Okay. So are you able to share with us when exactly you are meeting these stakeholders so that we also help you in publicizing it?
If God permits, next week Friday, we are putting things in order.
So you meet stakeholders, and for purposes of clarification, right? Who are the stakeholders involved? So the general public,
landlords associations, tenants association, immigration service.
Which people? So you have a tenant association you deal with?
Not specifically. There is an advocate, they call them tenant union. They are doing very well. They are talking on behalf of...
you recognize their...
We recognize their input. As far as somebody, you can represent landlords, you can represent tenants. As far as you talk on behalf of those people. And what we are facing now, we don't have a national landlords association. We have pockets.
So it's in groups.
In districts, in communities. So if some advocate within the domain can come, we invite all of them.
And next week Friday, you are meeting all of them.
We'll meet all of them
to deliberate on these issues.
To deliberate on it, not only on the bill, but how rent control can be uplifted, what they think we can do at the department to make sure that we solve current problems.
And where is this meeting taking place?
We are putting, just as I said, we are putting a lot
but
of
it's happening next week Friday.
It's happening.
We'll call you on the show to give us updates on the show in the morning.
Exactly.
So
I mentioned that if God permit, because as
God will permit. Don't worry.
Okay. I'm mentioning this because if next week it will not happen, the following week will be a holiday, which we cannot do. Tentatively, by 12th of December, we should have that, because I'm have to put it point. The minister is on us seriously that we should have this stakeholders engagement so that we can deliberate on the bill, deliberate on how we can improve the rent control department, deliberate on the issues about landlords and issue about tenants. Then we factor all of them into the bill. Then we can pass it on to Parliament for it to be.
We'll be following keenly.
Yeah.
But interesting revelation you just made on the show. Let's move on to other issues that also significantly affect tenants. And every now and then when rent comes up, people complain about the illegal charges. And there are so many of them. So they tell you viewing fee. Is it something you recognize as a department? And of course, there's viewing fee, there's agent fees. Some of them charge as high as 15%. And you're wondering, and the worst part, listening to some stories and people who've gone through this ordeal, is that you would find in some instances landlords colluding with these agents. So you might be able to reach the landlord independently through whatever means, and he'll tell you that go and see the agent. This is problematic.
This issue is being solved in the sense that in the year 2020 a law was passed, which is the Real Estate Agency Act. That act was passed just on the 15th of October. There was a stakeholders conference on this bill. What this this act seems to correct is the fees and charges that agents and brokers charge. There is a council that has been formed. They are championing or leading this implementation of the act, the Real Estate Agency Act. So the Real Estate Agency Council at this conference, they will prescribe fees and charges for anybody who calls himself agent or broker. They will issue license, they will issue certificate. They will be inspecting your offices so that you shouldn't sit under a tree and call yourself agent. And it will be an offense. Not that it will be, it is an offense to call yourself an agent or broker if you don't have a license.
So you want to regulate the space?
Yes.
But are you also minded about these high costs?
No, we've seen that the agents are contributing to the high rent in Ghana. What the law says is that the landlord has no right to demand more than 6 months rent advance. The issue is demand. But, we've seen that there is a gap in the law. That's why we want to review it. That the tenant has right to offer more than 1 year, 2 years to a landlord. It's not an offense. But when the landlord demands more than 6 months,
it's a problem.
It's a problem. It's an offense.
Some even demand 2 years.
Exactly. And we've seen that.
And they charge a 13-month.
Which is the security deposit. The issue there is that those agents and brokers collude, just as you mentioned, collude with the landlords because they want higher fees. Or they think that the 6 months will be too small. So let me face the tenant, just lure him that no, you will take only 2 years or 1 year. And because of the vulnerability of the tenant, sometimes they have no option than to go in line with the agent. Just as I mentioned, because of their fees. If you pay higher, they will get higher fees. The law even prescribes that after 1 year, you are not supposed to go before the landlord or the tenant again for any fee. But we see that people stay in people's houses for 5 years.
Agents come back
every year they come for their fees, which is totally wrong.
What are you doing as a department to address this? Like, top of your head, what are the two most impactful mitigations to this
Okay.
as a department?
Okay, so this goes to the domain of the Real Estate Agency Council. We are sisters or brothers.
There's also aside the rent department, there's
a Real Estate Agency Council. And they are mandated to regulate these agents and brokers. So what they are doing or what they are going to do is first to educate anybody who wants to venture into the real estate agency program or industry. They will train you, issue with certificate and license, make sure you have offices. Because it shouldn't be, as I mentioned, you can't sit under the tree and call yourself an agent. Those agents will be under brokers. So if you are not a broker, you can't operate. If you are not an agent under a broker, you can't operate. So very soon, just as I mentioned, there was a stakeholders conference. They will come out with the modalities so that they check those people. So this is what they are doing now. Just as I mentioned, it's outside the rent control department. It's under the mandate of the Real Estate Agency Council. As
a department, are you minded about the seeming, housing deficit we have in the country? And of course, we've seen successive government interventions, right? So they come in with affordable housing projects. But for some reason, it's never really affordable to the ordinary Ghanaian. And people in higher places end up buying these facilities and now renting it out at very high. So my question is, as a rent control department, are you minded to sit with government and say, see, Mr. Government, we need to do things differently? So for example, SNITs, flats, Boteman, can we do something and really make it affordable where then you manage? Has this kind of conversation come up in your dealings with government? And are you minded to go on that trajectory to ease the pressure a bit?
Okay, that shall not lead me to temptation.
No, I'm not leading you.
I'm a government.
Yeah.
Rent control is part of government.
Yeah.
We are under the Ministry of Waste and Housing and Water Resources. Ministry of Waste and Housing and Water Resources are mandated to take charge of this affordable housing. There is always a management meeting. There's always a directors meeting where they discuss issue. But what comes into mind is that, are there funds to build this social housing, this affordable housing? So just as I mentioned, don't lead me to temptation.
Yeah, but
this is a mandate of the Ministry of Works and Housing.
The point is that you deal with the issues directly.
Yes.
Works and Housing, we know, is mandated to do this through the State Housing Corporation.
Exactly.
But because as a department you understand the issues firsthand, concerns are maybe you can now take charge of that discussion and say we want to also have a stronger voice, or possibly even lead the government's drive in creating affordable housing, and we deal with the issues around rent. I think it's a mandate that you can deal with.
No, just as I mentioned, we deal with law. The Rent Act is what guides us, and again the rent regulation. As we speak now, there's nothing in the law or the regulation that mandates us to rent houses to the public. So we'll factor into the discussion and see if Ghanaians will be willing, or Ghanaians who like that rent control will venture into that. But just as I mentioned, it's under the Ministry of Works and Housing's Water Resources mandate. Based on the funds available, government will decide that no, we are focusing on social housing. We will build the social housing, give it to, in quote, the Kayaye or the laborers on this, so that we will take some of their burden. It should be the focus of
many analysts have described, for example, property tax as progressive and something that we should be looking forward to in terms of course, addressing the tax gap and making sure that we improve the general economy and all of that. As a department, do you have a position on this?
Yeah.
And if you do, what's the position?
Okay, so our position is that, you see, what we call the property rate falls under the district and the Metropolitan Assembly, and when it comes to the rent tax, it falls under GRA. We partner those people and make sure that when the landlord comes before us, some of the few questions we ask are that, after collecting the rent advance, have you gone to pay your 8% for domestic or the residential, or have you gone to pay your 15% for non-residential or the commercial? So we some of them push them to GRA, because we have not been mandated to collect these tax. But what we do is that is to sensitize landlords to pay those taxes to district assembly if it's a property rate, or to GRA if it's a rent tax. So that's what the sensitization we are doing. That's the partnership we have.
What's the feedback? What's been the feedback since you started this?
The feedback has not been encouraging, because you know, GRA, just as I mentioned, since it's not part of our mandate, ours is just to push them to their offices to come and pay. They need to come out and then make sure everybody who has to pay a certain tax is paid. So that's we don't want to venture into somebody's.
I recall one time listening to some of your officials speak on the National Rental Assistance Scheme.
That's right. That's right.
Is it working? Is like
okay.
Is it functional, or it fall times inside?
No, I'm very happy because I'm part of the committee
on the National Rental
Assistance Scheme, and I'm also the spokesperson for that scheme.
The committee. The scheme.
It's very interesting. As we speak now, we have over 3,600 beneficiaries.
3,600.
600 beneficiaries.
Nationwide.
Nationwide.
Are you able to give us a regional breakdown of the 3,000?
I have it, but maybe during the break I'll fetch it for you. What is happening is that government parted 27 million to the scheme.
27 million
27
Ghana cedis.
Ghana cedis to the scheme.
And this was in what year?
That was in 2024. Yeah, 2023, ending of getting to 2023. So it's a revolving fund. We were assured of increasing the money. As we speak, we have only 6 regions we are dealing with. The more the money, the more sometimes we feel very shy to publicize this, because when a lot of people get to know and they trip in to the portal to apply and they provide all the eligibility requirements, they will be stuck, in the sense that there is no money in there.
But 27 million is quite an appreciable amount of money.
No, but you ask yourself that 3,600 people, if averagely somebody is paying 500 cedis a month, let's just do the calculation and see the number of people who can benefit from that 27 million.
So what is the criteria? Maybe run us through. How do I benefit from it? And what are the criteria I need to meet?
So first of all, you need to be a Ghanaian above 18 years. You should have a job, not only formal. It can be informal, but you need to prove that you get daily, weekly, or monthly income. Because at the end of the day, when the money is given to the landlord on your behalf, there should be a system for you to repay the money monthly, weekly, or daily. So there should be a verifiable program or document that shows that every day I get this, every week I get this, or every month I get this, or within a period I get a remittance into my account. It can be a Momo account.
So Ghanaian 18 year, it should be in a stable employment.
Yes, and then of course you need to have an account, if it's a Momo account or bank account, because you can prove that every day I can come or every month I can come. Even if you are not verifiable and you can get somebody to guarantee, it can be a student, etc.
And what's the threshold for rent?
The threshold, as we started, we pegged it at 1,500 a month. So if you can rent a place for 1,500, but again, we need to look at your income and then strike the point that 30% of your income will go into the rentals. If you receive 1,000 cedis and you are going to rent a place for 500, you'll be disqualified outright. So when you are receiving 1,000 cedis, your rent portion should be 300 Ghana cedis. If you go and rent a place 400 Ghana cedis, the system will disqualify you. So these are the threshold as you asked.
But then you leave out certain groups of people.
Let me know.
Because for example, if somebody, and again, we know the challenges with rent. So of course, not everybody is able to rent because of the kind of money they earn. Some people have to go a little bit higher because they don't have the options, and maybe they don't want to go to a certain level because it's not what they want for their family.
Exactly.
So if somebody is tied to 1,005 and you say it's 30%, it means that a significant group of people will be removed from assessing this, and you are denying them, their rights as Ghanaians. You get my...
Yeah, I understand. We did a lot of analysis. If you can pay 1,005 a month, let's calculate for a year how much you get or even that month. A month, if you pay 1,000, 30% of that goes into your rental. Then you are rich.
You're not
the
quite.
Issue, this is to solve the vulnerable, the low income.
Yeah.
That was the aim, or that is the aim of this scheme, to help those at the low income who cannot, through the agent or through the landlords, cannot afford.
So the
more
average
than
rent you pay for them is 500 cedis to 1,000.
The cap, yes. So the maximum is 1,005 per month for a person.
So wow. But how long has this been running for?
Yes, so it was it was launched on the 31st of December 2023.
2023. And
yeah,
since
2023.
then, you
since
supported 3,000 applicants
3,600
with a seed money
of 27 million. But what is interesting, or what is gratified to express, is that this money has accrued to over 59 million because of the revolvement of that money. And all these have gone into helping people to rent accommodation.
But if averagely you are paying 1,000 Ghana cedis for 3,000, then you are liquid. You have money in the system, right? No, so then you have room for more applicants.
No, as we speak, there are backlog. I will fetch you the
no, I want my viewers right now. I want to get slots for my viewers who are watching and want to apply. Yeah. So is there space for them?
No.
So I make a request for them to send their numbers and
we
start
can't
the
stop
process.
Somebody from applying. You can apply. Just as I say, it's a revolving fund. So every month people pay in, and then those backlog, we gather those money and then pay.
I get it. So 3,000 beneficiaries plus. How many applicants do you know in the last year?
I'll fetch you the
I need to know the number of people who are applying and the number of people who benefit, so that we are able to see. But anyway,
I'll fetch you.
Interesting.
The document.
My guest is Mr. Emmanuel Kosu. Really exciting conversations. Also, like I said earlier on, very emotive when issues of rent come up. But he's been very graceful to share with us all the insights. I've seen a couple of your messages. I'll read some of them. You can do so. You can also do so via the number on your screen right now. Share with me your message, your comments, and I'll be glad to read it across for you. So Mante Felix says, sir, are you saying I can report this act of a landlord charging me more than 6 months worth of rent? Also, have you guys not seen the apartments on rent on Digi and Tonaton? There's no house there for less than 1 year. It is crushing to see that you have to master and gather so much money for a house you would ideally not even want. My name is Sylvia Bano. I want to know something. What is the state regulated percentage for rent increase? Secondly, how suddenly can a landlord raise rent? I'm asking this because my friends are experiencing sudden rent increment and I fear I'm next. I hope you got that question from Sylvia. Moving on with this one says, we need to see more from the rent control because the stories I hear from family members and friends are just scary. Is there a standard charge for maybe a 2-bedroom and various types of accommodation? This is from Ben Bachman. So again, this comes back to price regulation, which is a kind of part of your mandate. Do you have like standard charges for the types of houses? So for example, a chamber and hall, self-contained, a 2-bedroom in particular locations. Are there standard prices you'd usually refer to? Okay,
so it's very difficult to ascertain this in the sense that I mentioned the ingredient that goes into the acquiring of the rent, or the how to determine the rent. The key is the value of the land.
Okay.
The other part is the materials that the person have used. You can see the same structures at the same location, but probably the material used by one party will be different. The amenities in one part will be different. So it's always after the assessment that a rent can be determined. Yeah,
so the factors of land, the structure, the facility, the amenities, whether you have an air condition on, all of that determine.
So you cannot say that we have 2 single rooms at the same vicinity, so they should be charged the same. It will vary.
Interesting.
It will vary.
Wow. Yeah. Let's come to the rent control department. You know, yourself, you are supposed to be advocating for people.
Yeah.
But even as a department, I get a sense that there are some limitations to the work that you do.
Okay.
I remember listening to the director somewhere 2021 say that there are only 2 functioning vehicles at the department. Do you have more now? What's the general concerns or challenges you are facing in line of work?
Yeah, just yesterday we met the minister.
Okay, Mr. Kenneth AJ, right?
We've reiterated our point, all our challenges. The state is the same. He has promised
there are only 2 vehicles.
2 moving vehicles.
2 moving vehicles. What are the other ones?
They are the workshop or something.
So they've been at the workshop since 2021.
Exactly, and we are crying for this. I have to be.
Yeah, but so the point is that if yourself you are not well resourced, how can you then advocate for other people?
Oh no, the issue is that if the commitment is there, if the commitment is there, that does not mean that if you don't have, I shouldn't tell you the means I came here. But the love of the work is there. And I cannot say that because I don't have vehicle, I'll fold my hand and sit in my office. We need to advocate. The more we cry, the more they will hear.
Yeah, it's beyond just the vehicles, about the motivation you have to then be an advocate. You know, so I'm sure the ministry is watching. What are your concerns to them with regards to the challenges you are facing in line of work?
No, just as I mentioned, we've had the opportunity to speak to the person in charge, and he has assured us, because of the digitalization program we are going through, 16 offices have been equipped out of over 65 offices. So he has seen our challenges, and he has promised to work on it for us.
Let's come to an issue you briefly touched on, but I'm still getting quite some feedback on it. Not a lot of people are really enthused, and this in respect to charging in foreign currency. Clearly the laws are clear, it is wrong. What are the remedies in place if you have to encounter something like that? So a landlord is charging in dollars, in pounds, or
okay, so you know, this is strictly, as I mentioned, under the mandate of BOG, Bank of Ghana. But any offense that is committed, if it's committed, it's an offense under the Rent Act. We have a process to follow. The first issue is to investigate. We don't just come and say, we investigate. We pass on our recommendation before the magistrate, who has the mandate to punish. He or she has the mandate to fine. So we don't have. We just have to recommend, after investigation, recommend to this. So when it comes to the dollarization of our rental industries, we pass on to the BOG. So for them to take charge of it, because they have been mandated to do so. Yeah.
Wow. And what you say has been the most common type of cases, right?
Okay.
I hear people talk about, oh, my landlord entered my space illegally and said he owns the place. I hear people say my rent, you know, the refundables has been withheld from me. You know, cases around illegal increment, which you've spoken about a lot. What you say is like very common cases you are dealing with on a daily basis.
Okay, so first on the list is that I mentioned that tenants have no right to owe any landlord more than a month's rent, and because of the economic situation, both landlords and tenants are suffering. Landlords are suffering because most of it depends on this rent for survival. So that if a tenant is owing them more than a month's rent, then they need to starve. Tenants are suffering because they don't have the income to be paying their monthly or their quarterly or 6 months rent advance. And because it's an offense, we can't look at the face of the tenant. The law says you should not owe the landlord more than a month's rent. So we see a lot of cases coming from landlords to our office demanding recovery of possession because tenants are owing them. So this is the first on the list. The second on the list is that tenants are also coming for the inducements issue I mentioned.
Yeah.
Landlords are also coming for tenants using their premises for immoral and illegal purposes, causing nuisance and annoyance. You know, you cannot take the law into your own hands. No matter how offensive a tenant will be, you cannot sanction the person all by yourself. You need to report for an investigation to be conducted, and if the tenant go contrary to the law, there is a punishable thing that can be meted on them. So those are the 4 key issues.
There's a message here on the illegal charges, and this one is talking about utility prices, saying that in apartments, for example, everybody's made to pay the same. So, for example, water bill, where sometimes even the room number differ, the inhabitants in the space differ, everybody pays the same bill to the landlord. That can't be legal, right?
It's illegal, very illegal. Apart from the rent that the tenants pay, those utilities must be shared equally. No landlord has right when the bills come or is sent to your mobile phone, you hide it and then you just pick a piece of paper and then issue how much you want them to pay. Recently we've had an issue. Some landlords who have accrued some bill for a very long time, new tenant has come and now they are sharing bills that will be defraying the bill that they are owing. It's very legal. The process is that when the bills come, you show it to everybody who is partaking in the using of the utility. You know the gadgets you have in your rooms, and if you've agreed that it will be shared per room, you've all agreed. It's just a matter of agreement, so that you know how much the person pays. But you cannot hide the utility under your pillow or in your phone and then be sharing how much you think the tenant should pay. If any tenant is going through such a thing, the person has right to visit our office. We'll call the landlord and then put him where he should belong.
Wow. Interesting feedback. Let me come to the department again. You know, you've mentioned the constraints you are dealing with, but you know, what are you doing, particularly the public relations department, to be more out there? Because I know people feel like we are not seeing a lot more of rent control, and when issues come, people take up the law in their own hands, and they, you know, people also decide to go to court on their own and all of that. So what are you doing to propagate the work you are doing more? Of course, you've come on this platform, we appreciate your time this morning, but are you minded to say, okay, we are going to embark on this drive, we are going to do this, we are going to try and reach out to more people? In fact, National Rent Assistance Scheme, big thing, 3,000 people have benefited from, but we didn't know this, right? So what are your plans going forward to ensure that you're more visible, that people understand your mandate and they engage you more?
Oh no, I always praise any media house when I appear. You know, our constraint is funds. It should be our duty to come to ChannelOne and buy airtime for sensitization program. But the issue is about fun. So we always thank you for giving us the opportunity to come and then use your platform to educate the people as you've done now. So, you know, always we send budget and we include such sensitization programs. But the funds we get are so limited that before we take care of our utilities in our offices and then some other pending issues, there's absolutely nothing in the coffers which can aid us to go and buy those airtime and do those public sensitization. So we are pushing government that these are essential issues, because without educating the public, just as you mentioned, people will be fighting in their house because they may not know the rules of the game. So until we do this sensitization, people will be fighting.
Do you have social media accounts?
Yes, we do.
Are they active?
They are very active.
Because I'm checking here, you know.
You type rent control depart.
Do you have a website?
Yeah, we do have a website.
What's the website?
It's rent control
Let me check it.
Yes.
Rent control.
Rent control depart.gov.gh. Let's try that.
Rentcontrol.gov.gh.
Yes.
Rent control
dot
m
go-
dot
h
rent
w-
control
dot mwh
mwh
yes
dot gov.gh.
yes let's try that.
Okay, so I've seen
You've seen
the rent
something.
control portal.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
not bad.
Yeah.
Is it very responsive? If
Yeah.
I send, because I've seen contact us, I've seen the FAQ. If I reach out, is it very responsive?
Exactly. So we are using this also to get our digitalization program ongoing, in the sense that you can now sit in the comfort of your chair now and lodge a complaint to your landlord or to your tenant.
Yeah.
It will come to our office, we will scrutinize it, we will look at the complaint you've made, and then we will forward the summons to the respondent. So that at the end of the day, the person will not need to come to our office before we issue the person any summons. So through this, a date will be scheduled for you to appear before the rent officer, and then you re-edge your complaint. We'll give the opportunity to the respondent to also respond. We'll do the investigation, and anybody who flout the law, the necessary punishment will be given.
I'm on your Twitter page right now, and the
Yeah.
last time you posted was in 2020. So clearly, there's a lot of work that you can,
a lot of
you
work,
can see
exactly.
it for
But
yourself.
okay,
Yeah.
so our Facebook is very active. Our email is very active. Just before I came here, I have to respond to somebody.
On Twitter, you have only 15 posts, and the last post you made was in 2020. So
You know, we
clearly
are
there's-
very, yes, I understand.
I've even seen your picture here.
Okay, that
know.
is fine. So what we are saying is that our Facebook is very active. We do a lot of communication. Our Facebook, our WhatsApp, our email are very active. I agree with you that the last time we posted on the Twitter is very long. But we are channel our focus, because that's where a lot of people below the belt,
Yeah.
let me put it that way. These are the channels.
They are
always.
I want to
always
urge you to
on.
take your
No,
Twitter
we'll
very
take.
seriously.
I'm
I'm seeing something you did in 2020,
That's right.
dealing with evictions during COVID.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
know, public engagement.
Yes.
I think this is the way to go. You need to
Exactly.
continue some of these things.
We'll be active.
Wow, more messages are coming on the state of rent control. I'm of the view that rent control should establish a website. They already have it, and but the message goes on to say, where both tenants seeking accommodation and landlords offering accommodation can be hosted. This would give them an opportunity to vet all possible rentals to determine whether they can meet the required standards. It would also enforce through policy that no landlord can offer accommodation without passing through rent control. The message goes on to say that additionally, such a system could actually contribute to revenue generation for the state. So I think it's a good idea, right? So like a platform, maybe an app where you can advertise potential landlords and potential rooms, and tenants can jump onto.
Yeah, that is the main aim of this digitalization process. We've given landlords opportunity to post their vacant premises onto the website, so that tenants can also
but
go
the
there.
website is long, so maybe you can do like a TikTok page or maybe an app which is more easily accessible to young
Boss,
people.
we agree
So
with
you are
you.
taking the
No,
feedback.
I've taken
All
that
right, you didn't
seriously.
add your name, but
I've taken
my
that
guest
seriously.
Emmanuel Posu says, well noted. This message says, honestly, I feel like crying. The rent rates are too high. A common man, a young man who is starting life can't rent a single room. Believe you me, the rent control is an issue that is very difficult. I'm Joe from Dansoman. But of course, you are so grateful for your time.
I'm so grateful.
And the insights,
Yeah,
you
I'm
know,
so grateful.
and we'll be following some of the things
That's
and
right.
revelations you made on the show.
That's right.
Next week we'll call you at 7 a.m. to
No
ask you
problem.
the state of the engagement.
dialogue we want to do.
Absolutely.
I'm so grateful.
But thank you so much for your time.
I'm more grateful than you.
Mr. Emmanuel Posu, who is the head of PR at the Rent Control Department. He also tells us on the show that he speaks for the Committee on National Rent Assistance Scheme. So if you are watching the show and you need any other insights or clarification on this, send a message. We'll try and link you up so you can go through the process. We'll take a quick break. When we are back, there's a lot more on Breakfast Daily. Don't go away.